All right, rock and roll. Welcome to the Scorched Earth Political Podcast. I'm your host, John, for Monday, April 28th. You little rascals, I hope you were good this weekend. Always remember, if you're going to do mischief and mayhem, keep it to a misdemeanor, okay? The bail's much less, all right? This is the Scorched Earth, where we welcome friend and foe, sinner and saint. Oh my gosh, the weekend. Now we're on to the week. We're going to see the month of May in this week. Where literally did this four months go? I mean, Jesus. It's such a cliche. It really is, especially as you age. Like, I look like the Crypt Keeper from Tales Beyond. And it just, every day when you work seems to take a lifetime. Every week, an eternity. And before you know it, the year is gone. I mean, it's just amazing where we are. What's going on. And this is one of my favorite weeks of the year. Saturday is the Kentucky Derby. One of my favorite sporting events, along with about 300 other ones. Probably why I'm single. And I used to live in Lexington, Kentucky, which, a lot of people consider the horse racing capital of the United States. It was a wonderful area. It was green. It was beautiful, but bloody hell, it was boring. I mean, there was nothing there. I remember landing there. I had moved there, and I was at the local mall, and I was at a kiosk, and the lady said, "You don't look like you're from here." And I said, "No, I'm from Los Angeles. I just moved here." And she looked at me inquisitively and said, "Why would anybody do that?" Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, double down, John. There's warning signs that come, and you just don't take heed to it. And I don't think myself and Lexington were ever really a fit. I had great friends there. It made it a lot more palatable, that's for sure. But, in that city, there's bowling, beer, and basketball. That's about it, right? And I'll tell you, when I left there, I had the biggest smile on my face. But I always enjoyed the Kentucky Derby. It was always just a wonderful, wonderful time. And the people were cool. Maybe one day I'll get into some stories about what happened. Hey, John, you always tell stories at the beginning. Yeah, I know. We got to get to the news, kids. Got to get to the news, okay? I don't want to bore everybody. Click, click, click. I can hear it. All right. Like I said, if you could, hit that like and subscribe. Hit the notifications. It means a lot to us. And we're off and running, taking no prisoners, telling no lies. And we're going to burn it all down today. Welcome to your Monday, all right? So we this weekend, the President Trump was in the Vatican, and he came back, and here is what he's coming back.
Mark President Trump's 100th day in office. We have a brand new CNN poll showing Americans are turning on him after propelling him back into office just 6 months ago. According to this brand new poll, Trump's approval rating now standing at just 41%.
He's not even at 100 days. We're not even. So let's understand this, that for the most part, there's 40% of the electorate supports the liberals, 40% supports the conservatives, the other 20%, literally anybody who is not MAGA is out on this cat right now. Now, obviously, things can change. They can get much worse. But let's see what the polls keep telling us.
To give you some context, that is the lowest for any president at this point in his term in the history of modern polling, going all.
Remember when he used to talk about the polls when he was running for president in 2024? I mean, he was talking about, the polls are so great. It was an overwhelming mandate. Looks like people took that back.
All the way back to Eisenhower. This beats the record Trump himself set at the 100-day mark of his first term back in 2017. Trump's approval sliding down 7 points from just late February. There's very little good news in this poll, and
forget the poll. There's no good news in America. Christ's sake, I'm trying to become Canadian.
For the president, and CNN's chief data analyst, Harry Inton, is joining us here in Washington to break down the numbers. Harry, very good morning.
Nothing personal, but this Harry Inton, he looks like he's on ketamine. Maybe he's hanging out with Elon Musk on the weekends. I don't know. He looks a little sketchy, but let's move on.
You?
Morning to you.
You're here, brand new polling. Where are we 100 days, almost 100 days into President Trump's second term as compared to his first.
I mean, these numbers are just horrible. There's no way to sugarcoat it. And the first way we'll
Come on, Harry, tell me how you really feel.
sort of point that out is we'll look at where Donald Trump is now versus where he was 100 days into his first presidency. And you see it here. You don't have to be a mathematical genius. 41% approval of him now. It was 44% back in 2017.
I think we can see that, Harry.
Around the 100-day mark. And what's so notable here is that throughout his second term as president, he tended to be running ahead of where he was in his first term. No longer is that the case. He has fallen below where he was at this point in his first term. Of course, this is just Trump. Let's compare him to other presidents. And
I wonder how this is going to go.
think this kind of puts a bow on it. And you can see it here. You see the 41%. That is 12 points below Joe Biden.
Look at those numbers, if you could, for a second. George Bush, at that point, his administration was kind of meandering. In 2001, 9/11 hadn't happened, and that is where the country actually galvanized and got behind him. And that is an amazing number. That's how you see that in October of that year, George Bush actually was somewhere around 85 to 90%, considering where the poll was, because Americans do rally around when we have a type of crisis. Unless you're, Trump in 2020 when we have COVID and he says it doesn't really exist. Look at those numbers for Obama, 63%. He was riding a wave. And even Joe Biden in 2024 was at 53%. Nice to see somebody pulling up the rear here. Thank you, Trump.
3 points below where he was in his first term. Look at where Obama was, 63%. He's 22 points below that. And George W. Bush at this point in 2001, he is, 21 points below. And as you pointed out in your opening, Jessica Dean, I look back at all of the polling you possibly could long before I was born. And Trump's 41% at 100 days is the worst on record. He has broken his own record for being the worst. The American.
Well, I guess that's what we call winning, right? Winning! Yeah, him and Charlie Sheen, right? Well, I don't know. I don't like getting into the polls too much because there ain't a damn thing we can do, right? We can't vote for a recall election. We can't do that. And you know what? Honestly, I'm glad we can't. I don't want that political chaos because remember this, as liberals, whatever we're doing, they can do to us, right? Or we're doing what they do, whatever, tit for tat, whatever. Okay, the polls are terrible. Do they affect him? Not really. Maybe they jab at his ego a little, but at the end of the day, we are going to see. I'm new to this English thing. Please excuse the faux pas. There is when we get to September, when we get to August, we get to September, and the new budget comes around. Okay, let's see how many Republicans in Congress are going to put their neck out to go with Social Security cuts, Medicaid, whatever is on the. I'm not going to get into all the hypotheticals. We all know what's coming. He wants to cut $1 trillion so he can give his rich buddies more tax cuts, and we're going to see where that comes out of. I'm just as a casual observer here with his own podcast. I doubt they're really going to cut the military. Maybe they will. Like I've said before, and I'll say it again, in 4 years when I'm the president, I've already got my vice presidential pick. So, you know what? Gavin Newsom, you can back off. Christy Whitmer, and Chuck Schumer, you can go F yourself. I saw him on the Sunday show and he said, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, it don't matter, guy. We're going to take care of that next time you're up for election. I think it's in 26. Good luck. See ya, AOC. Go get him. Go get him. But what I'm going to do is just first day. Let's stop funding the military, just like the president illegally did with USAID. Now, I do believe in a military. I do believe it's essential for this country, but you have to put a shot over the bow. If Congress is going to give up their power of the purse, John is going to take it with a fist and ram it down their throat. Yeah, let me do that. Let's see where everything is a week in. Yeah, let's see how that works. Eventually, I'm going to have to relent. I understand that. I don't want to hurt the servicemen and women who serve this country so bravely. And there is a lot of beautiful human beings who are in the military. Do I believe that the military should get its annual 4% increase? F no. Do I think there's the most waste of anywhere in the government, in the military? Hell yes. Those contracts with those the defense industry are so rigged, they are so corrupt, it makes me sick. It makes the third world republic look like legit stuff, right? All right. So there we go. Let's go. Let's burn it down some more. Let's talk about the other story I caught on the news. And that is, does America still have a soul? And you see some of these stories, and I understand we're getting numb to what is going on in the political environment. There's so much coming at us, right? And I get where people tune out. I do. And they would rather watch their TikTok videos. They would rather do that kind of stuff than really get into where the issues are. And look, there are a lot of sincere, honorable Republicans now who are really dive into the issues. But for in my experience, most of them are just riding with the president. Whatever he says, I'm going to go. I voted for him. I believe in him. I'm not going to get into the nuance. I got a busy life. I get it. They're still good people. I am not going to go down that rabbit hole and say, oh, the 40%, no, they're not. They're good people. And like I've said, my entire circle seems to be Republican. And they're the best people in the world. Now, politically, we couldn't be more far apart. Okay, somebody asked me today, they said, well, what are you? And I said, I'm a progressive. And they said, well, what is that? And I said, well, there's the Democrat, right, who believes in policies that advance social causes. There's the liberal who is out there actively engaging and believing in more rights for more people in America, socially, economically, whatever. I don't want to hear it. I can already hear the Republicans off the podcast. Leave it in the comments. Leave it in the comments, you trolls. I'll deal with you on Monday. But the progressives, and I'm proud to say I believe I'm a progressive, is I'm not just satisfied for where we are. And this is where Bernie and AOC come in. They're not just fighting for where we are now to keep Medicaid cuts. I would say that's the liberal. They want to keep Social Security the way it is, okay? Kumbaya, man. I want more. I want universal health care. I want every man, woman, and child in this country to be able to go to the doctor. I want them to be able to be taken care of. In the country that is the richest in the world, that we have $1 trillion defense budget, we can't afford health care for everybody. Like the stat I brought up, the money we spent in the first year of the Iraq war, we could have had 50 years of universal health care for every man, woman, and child in America. That is just so bloody effing ridiculous. Really, think about that. And why are the Republicans trying to stop us from having universal health care? Oh, we can't afford it. No, we can't afford it. Our priority isn't that. It's the war machine. That's what the priority is. And that, the war machine's going to keep rolling. And I hope, and I pray, even though I'm spiritual, I still pray. I pray, you know who I pray to? I pray to Chub Chub, that he doesn't explode. Yes. That's super producer Stacy's little squirrel friend, She keeps feeding me. She fed him a buffet on Easter. Man, that everybody, all little Chub Chub's friends must be going, man, how'd you hook up with that lady? I don't know, man, but I'm thankful. I'm stalking her. I sit here every day waiting for her. She tries to go around, I see her. Chub Chub sees everything. Yeah, I see it all. All right. But like I said, and that's why I consider myself a progressive. Hopefully we have some progressives in the audience. And at the end of the day, I want to make America better for everybody. And I understand there's an economic element. I do understand business is a vital component of this country. Okay? But I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to go off on the tangent here. AI is going to take it all. It's going to change everything. I saw a podcast because, I'm more than a pretty face. I'm doing research for this every day, and I'm listening to multiple podcasts. I'm reading multiple articles, whatever. And I saw a podcast by this gentleman who's the CEO of Flexport. They're one of the biggest importers in America. And he was talking about his own business model, okay? And he said, we have 200 employees in our company. And I was blown away what was coming next. He said, AI is eliminating 1% of our employee payroll every week. So what that means is 1% of his staff is getting cut every week. 200 people, that's 2 people. You know, hello? In 2 years, they're going to be down to 3 or 4. And I wonder, what does that mean for the rest of the economy? You know, all these things that we say, you know, we can't do, we better get ready. You know, we better get ready like Australia, where everybody gets a check every month. Because I'm telling you, AI is going to take it all down. It is. But, you know, and I get a lot of pushback. It's not going to happen. All right, we'll see. Hopefully I live long enough to see it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I'll tell you, if you're a 20-year-old coming into it and they're gaming you with this incredible college fund, this incredible college debt, because they tell you that's the way you're going to get through, and maybe it is. It probably is right now. But I'm telling you, where are you going to be in 20 years? You know, Stacy and I, we have a friend, and he has college debt that Biden tried to forgive. He tried to, you know, erase it. And boy, I'm going down the rabbit hole today. Understand this about the Biden elimination of student debt. Okay? And I do not blame anybody in the media. I blame the Biden administration for not explaining it correctly. Okay? Here's what, and I'm going to be Joe Biden's spokesperson 6 months later, is what they were doing was, let's take a loan. Let's say somebody has a $100,000 loan, right? They're paying their student debt. Let's say the payment hypothetically is $1,000. I think it would probably be closer to 600, but let's say it's 1,000, okay? I know people who've been paying 10, 12 years on that $100,000, and their balance is like 92. What Joe Biden was doing was saying, if you have covered the principal, if you have a $100,000 student loan and you've paid $112,000, even though you quote unquote owe another 15 or 18 years, your debt's paid. That's it. We're good. And they did a real piss poor job of explaining that. And like I said, Stacy and I know this gentleman. He has student debt, and he still voted for Trump. Now Trump's handing it over to the Treasury Department. Hey, that knock on the door, that's the bill collector. Good luck, man. Good luck in seeing what that is, right? All right, let's move on to the final story in the news, and it's a sad one. I don't even really like even getting into these things, but I think I have an obligation to the audience to do it. You know how we talked about a couple weeks ago about the shootings? And I got this in the news. One of my favorite states, North Carolina. I love North Carolina. Honestly, at the end of my days, I want to either live in LA, Vegas, Manhattan, or North Carolina. I love Raleigh. Awesome city. It seems like North Carolina had a school shooting at a college, university, on Sunday morning. 1 killed, 6 wounded. And it was at Elizabeth City State University, historically black college. Doesn't really matter if it's black or white. The people all bleed red. And I look at what goes on, and nobody even talks about it. Nobody is even talking about these shootings. And I believe the statistic I came up with, or I found, I didn't make it up, was we had, it was 2 Saturdays ago, and my mind kind of escapes me at this late hour, but I want to say that we were already at 100 school shootings for the year. Like, I've never heard of any of these, you know? Where did they come from? And they don't get any publicity. That was just a little tidbit, you know? And 7 people, I don't know what their life is, you know? 5 of them had gunshot wounds. I got a feeling, you know, they quote unquote may live, but it may not exactly be the most pleasant of lives, right? All right, that's it today. Sinner and saint, friend and foe, you little rascals, thank you for listening. I appreciate everything you do. I love y'all. And we're in this together. You know, let's stick together. We're going to win because we're on the side of right. We're on the side of good. And we're on the side of democracy. All right. Love y'all. And I will see you soon.